Welcome to the listeners of TALRadio English. We're bringing global executives on this platform to share their journey. Our guest today is from an organization whose story began in 1975 with a new concept of service dogs for people with physical disabilities, and it's been more than 45 years and it's still counting. Canyon Companions, as a leader and the largest provider of service dog industry in the world, enhance independence for children, adults, and veterans with disabilities through expertly trained service dogs. Our guest today is Michelle Williams, Public Relations and Marketing Coordinator at Canine Companions who's been working and associated with Canon for about a decade now. Michelle, welcome to the show. Pleasure to have you with us.
Oh, we're so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Already, it's been quite a long number of years that you have been associated with Canon Companions. What made you be a part of this association? How do you feel about it?
You know, it's just a wonderful organization, such a wonderful mission. I think I was really after graduating from college, from university, I was looking to make a difference. And I love dogs. A lot of us are attracted because of the dogs, and then really, helping people with disabilities. It's just such a wonderful mission, and that's what really got me attracted to it and why I've stayed for almost 10 years, like you said.
Right. Can you please highlight your background before joining Canine Companions?
Yeah, absolutely. I have always really cared deeply about people and helping people. And I studied communication and political science. I thought maybe I wanted to go into politics, and then decided maybe I can help with something not so political. And what's better than dogs helping people? It just seemed like the best place where I could really put my communication skills to work, and it's been wonderful. I just love it here.
It's a very interesting concept about Canyon Companions. Can you explain more in detail about what all activities that you get involved with?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, we are the largest provider of service dogs in the United States. We provide our dogs all completely free of charge to adults, children, and veterans with disabilities, completely free of charge, like I said. So it's just a wonderful organization. And you did mention we were founded in 1975, and we started as a very small, just an idea really, and then into a very small organization. And since then we've grown. We have 6 training centers across the US where we train and place these incredible service dogs.
Right. And how did this idea come up? I know it's a long time, 1975. How did actually the idea come up to make dog as an assistant, and how Canyon Companions did take place and service dogs for veterans come into existence?
Yeah, a lot of us are familiar with guide dogs. Guide dogs have been around for a long time, guiding people who are blind. But it was a newer idea, and really Canine Companions first harnessed this idea that dogs could help people with physical disabilities, do practical tasks like picking up dropped items and things like that. And I've since learned that idea started when someone who was first around when Canine Companions began saw working burros, donkeys overseas somewhere, and thought, dogs could help people. There are working animals. And that's kind of how it all began. And now, like I said, we're the largest provider of service dogs in the United States. So it's wonderful.
Right. And recently we are all still reeling through under the pressure of the pandemic, right? COVID has been the biggest challenge for all of us. And it has also served as a combat field for many of the nonprofits. In fact, almost all of the nonprofits out there. Are there any specific projects that were taken up by Canine Companions and its volunteers during this time? Because it's a unique cause that you have got, and what was the overall impact, and how were the difficulties that you had faced? How did you overcome all those difficulties?
Yeah, it was a hard time for all of us, right? People and dogs, certainly. And there were just a lot of pieces to this. One was that at first we had to completely shut down just like everybody else. But we have dogs that need to be trained, and we know that there are people waiting for their service dogs. So at first, when we evacuated our campus, we had our trainers actually took the dogs home into foster and continued their training. So some of our trainers even had, 5 dogs at their home and continued training them. So that was just an incredible, incredible effort on the part of all of our staff. And then, looking further into the pandemic, our volunteers raise and train our puppies out in the community. And with the pandemic kind of closing everything down, those were a lot of socialization opportunities that were then gone. So our puppies, we're noticing a difference in some of our puppies that have turned in that aren't maybe as well socialized to some environments as they would have been without a pandemic, right? Then there's another really fun volunteer activity that came out of this, and that is our Aviation Partners program. So all of our service dogs start as adorable little puppies at 8 weeks old. We actually breed our own dogs. We breed them for calm temperament, and we breed out medical conditions. We really want to make sure that these dogs are just the best of the best when we place them. And so all the puppies start where our headquarters is in Northern California, and we need to get them out all over the country to our volunteers who raise them for the first year and a half. So when the pandemic started, of course, all the airlines basically shut down. All of them stopped for a short time, stopped shipping live cargo. So we used to use commercial airlines to ship our puppies to our puppy raisers, and that wasn't an option anymore. So we looked to private pilots to try to move these puppies all over the country to their volunteer raisers. And since then, the Aviation Partners program was really born, and we've continued that program because it's been so wonderful. The pilots are just loving it. Our puppies have never flown better. They fly better than most of us humans, right? And it's a huge cost savings for us. And we're a nonprofit, and like I mentioned, we provide all the dogs free of charge. So that has just been a really wonderful program. That's kind of a silver lining from this pandemic.
That's a great motivation to see all those young pilots come forward for helping during these terrible times. Now, with service dogs that we talk about, right? We are also talking about 3 different levels of services that these dogs become available for all of us, right? I mean, for children, for veterans, and old age people. How are the training requirements for each of the 3 different categories? Are they different for each category? Are there unique, specifically designed training programs for the dogs for the purpose that they are looking forward to serve?
Yeah, it is really interesting. The dogs are all very unique, and as are our clients. And we want to make sure that these dogs are going to, perform so well, work really well for their clients and be a great team. So as you mentioned, we do provide service dogs to adults, children, and veterans. Our service dogs are going to pick up dropped items, turn on and off lights, open and close doors. Some of them even learn to pull someone in a manual wheelchair and propel them forward, which can be just a really life-changing task, because for someone who's been using a wheelchair for decades, it can really be a big strain on their shoulders. They can get a lot of rotator cuff injuries and different things. So to have a dog that can help propel them forward, they just hold on to their vest there, that can be really impactful. So those are our service dogs. That's kind of what they do for adults with disabilities. And then for the children, of course, they can do those tasks, picking up dropped items, turning on and off lights, opening and closing doors. But they also can help, a lot of our children with disabilities will go to physical therapy and occupational therapy or have lengthy hospital stays, and the dogs can help them, with that. One of our the children with disabilities, she has kind of a like a partial arm, and the dog was able to pick up her lunchbox and help her put it onto her arm so that she could go to school. I just thought that was so cute. So the dogs really, for children we're helping them, gosh, use the commands that are really going to help them in their life. So whereas, if I'm an adult with a disability, my dog might be picking up my cell phone here. For a child, it might be picking up, their pencil when they're at school, or, just a number of things. And then you also mentioned our veterans. We do provide our service dogs to veterans with physical disabilities, and those dogs will do many of the same tasks that I described. But then we also have a specific program for our veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder. And those dogs learn a completely different set of commands. They can pick up items because sometimes our veterans will want items picked up, but they also do some really cool specific activities. So one thing is delivering items from a distance. So they can actually go grab maybe a medicine, a pill jar of medicine for the veteran from afar, and come bring it back to them. They can go into the room ahead of the veteran and turn on the light. So, it's a lit area, make them feel more comfortable. They also perform some positional commands, getting in front and behind of the veteran to give them some more space in public. And then really one of the coolest ones, I think, is they perform anxiety interruption and nightmare interruption. So with anxiety interruption, they'll see some of those anxiety cues, whether that is somebody tapping their leg or moving their arm, or maybe putting your hands in your head, just anxious behaviors. The dog can come and interrupt that and really kind of serve as a grounding, keep them in the present. They also can interrupt nightmares, like I mentioned. And the way that works is if the veteran is having a nightmare, the dog will, wake up and will either, depending on the way the veteran wants to be interrupted, the dog can jump onto the bed and, wake them up that way. The dog can just turn on the lights and pull off the covers. So, depending on what the veteran needs and wants, and kind of the needs of the team, we can do some different things. And then there are two different types of dogs, which I haven't discussed yet, that are pretty exciting. One is our facility dogs. So our facility dogs are going to work with professionals who work in criminal justice, healthcare, or rehabilitation settings. So these are people who are professionals who work with people who can benefit from the dog. So we have facility dogs in children's hospitals all across the country, in physical therapy offices, occupational therapy, as well, speech therapy. I mean, these dogs can just do so much. And then I mentioned the criminal justice dogs. That's just incredible as well. These facility dogs work with DAs and investigators to really help people through the criminal justice process. And they're going to use those commands that I talked about to really interact with and help motivate and calm these clients. So it's pretty cool. I can give an example. I've seen some of our dogs in a children's hospital, and a kid doesn't really want to walk around the hospital as recommended by their doctor. That seems boring. But maybe they get to, walk around with the dog. Or someone in physical therapy, doing a monotonous motion isn't that exciting. But if you can actually throw a ball to a dog, or maybe play tug with a dog while you're testing your balance, that's going to be a lot more fun, right? So really helping motivate those clients. And then the last kind of service dog that we provide are our hearing dogs. And those dogs are going to alert adults who are deaf or hard of hearing to sounds in their environment. So that is just incredible to see. The dogs, will alert them to, their cell phone ringing, an alarm clock, a fire alarm, even alert them if they drop their keys. That's a sound that they wouldn't hear and they'd just walk along without their keys, but the dog can alert them that that has happened. Another really cool one is the dogs can actually learn their handlers' names and alert them when their name is being called. So that is just unbelievable, really. And I've just heard story after story about how they change lives.
It's so very overwhelming in terms of trying to see what all the benefits that we could have together, right? I mean, but more importantly, as I keep thinking on all the data points or information that you're providing, it is a very complex training. It must be involving a lot of doctors as well, a lot of trained professional veterinary doctors. And I don't know what kind of a team, sir. Can you throw some light on that front? Like, how do you make it so much available for every person out there who is much in need of a service dog? And there is a lot of complex process and training that goes behind the scenes. We want to make sure that our listeners understand how complex this is.
It is an incredible process, and it really starts at day one. So, I mentioned we have our own breeding program that we've had since 1975. We've tested with a lot of different breeds. We used some rescue dogs at some points and really found that breeding Labrador retrievers and golden retrievers and crosses of the two breeds was just that perfect mix for the type of work that our dogs are doing. They're natural retrievers. They also really, bond well with different handlers, which is really important in all our program. And, that'll become clear in just a moment when I explain. Our breeder caretakers, we have volunteers who have the breeder dogs that all live in Northern California here by our headquarters. And they are just a wonderful, generous group of people who the breeder caretakers for the female dogs actually have the puppies in their home, whelp them in their home, and have them there for 8 weeks. And like I said, the training starts on day one. So they are socializing them to lots of different sounds. We have some sounds that they play that include, babies crying and sirens and just fireworks, just all different kinds of sounds to try to make sure that they've heard, all that kind of stuff. They'll also introduce them to lots of different people as they start to get older. It'll be unique for a puppy to see sometimes a man with a beard or someone wearing a hat. There's things that we see all day, every day that we think nothing about, but are very novel to a puppy. They'll also start, trimming their tiny little nails and handling their little paws and making sure they're really comfortable with being handled by people, because of course, as a service dog, you're going to get bathed and get your nails done and get your teeth brushed and your ears cleaned, possibly more often than a pet, right? And we want our dogs to be really comfortable with all that handling and maneuvering, and make sure that they're really well-rounded puppies. And our breeder caretakers also start basically toilet training, litter box training, even from that very early stage. They'll also start a little bit of crate training. So our dogs, when they're puppies, are trained to be in crates when they're not, when they're sleeping and when they're not, out and being supervised by their person. And so I apologize. It's really important that they're comfortable in those crates, and that all starts very young. So that's with our breeder caretakers, and that is in that first 8 weeks of life. Then, like I said, they get turned into our our headquarters and our professional training center here in Northern California. And that's where our incredible veterinarians, check them over, make sure they're all very healthy. And oh my gosh, you mentioned doctors and experts. And I will say, I should have mentioned that with our breeding. There is so much research and expertise that goes into making sure that these dogs are so healthy. And if we have a little time, if you can remind me, we should talk more about the research because it is pretty interesting. But yes, we have experts really looking into how we can make sure that these are the best service dogs. So then they're turned in, we make sure they're all healthy, and then they go out, hopefully with our private pilots, right, all over the country to their volunteer puppy raisers. And those volunteer puppy raisers are just the most wonderful, generous people. They take in the puppies at 8 weeks of age and train them and socialize them. They actually train more than 30 commands over about a year and a half. And you just fall in love with those puppies. And then you turn them back in for professional training. So our volunteers during that time go to our puppy classes, socialize the dogs to all sorts of sounds and people and environments. Take them to baseball games and parties and really anywhere that someone with a disability would go, right? Which is anywhere where we might go. So just making sure they're used to all sorts of different things. Then they're turned into our professional training center. And that's where our trainers who are Assistance Dog International certified professional service dog trainers train them for about 6 to 9 months in those more advanced commands, like picking up dropped items, turning on and off lights, opening and closing doors, pulling someone in a manual wheelchair, those commands that I mentioned for veterans, the commands for the hearing dogs. And that's where we really see, which dog is going to be best fit for which program and kind of help them, learn those tasks. And then at that point, when they're ready to be matched with our clients, we invite our clients onto one of our campuses for a 2-week team training where they actually stay on our campus. We have dormitories and be matched with their service dog and learn how to work with them. So at that point, our service dogs know more than 45 commands, and our clients really need to know everything there is to know about having a service dog and how to use these 45 commands effectively. So it's a really big process, but just so rewarding in the end.
Absolutely, it's a very, very, very rigorous process, as what I could hear from you. And more importantly, I think you did tell me that to bring back the important point of some research that goes on behind the scenes, right? You want to throw some more light on that piece as well?
Yeah, I'd love to. We're just constantly doing research and we have some incredible partners, including Duke University, the University of Arizona. They have canine cognition programs, and we have researchers here that work with us and work with them. We do a lot of collaborative research, which is just really incredible. Some of the things we've worked on, and we have some incredible doctors. Dr. Brenda Kennedy is our head of canine health and research and training, and she's just incredible. And Dr. Emily Bray, who's one of our postdoctoral research associates, she is just amazing. And they've been doing studies. One of them is on maternal style. So seeing if when the dogs are with their mom, when they're with their breeder caretakers in those homes, if, a more independent type of maternal style or a more doting type of maternal style is going to end up turning into, potentially a better service dog. It'll be interesting to see, those results. And if then we can try to breed for that maternal style and potentially breed better service dogs, higher success rate. Another study that we're doing is on canine cognition, and those are really ongoing. We've tested a ton of our puppies, and then we've again tested them when they've come in for professional training. And it's a battery of tests that really seeing, one of the tests is, will the dog follow a body cue? So if somebody's going to point to where the treat is under a cup, is the dog at 8 weeks, before it's really had a much socialization with humans and really no training yet, is the dog going to follow a body cue of a human? And we see that over chance, over 50% that they do already at 8 weeks before any training follow human body cues. Another one is seeing if they can This one's kind of funny and adorable. Basically, it's a clear cylinder that has, it's got both sides are available for the puppy to get in, but it's a clear cylinder. And they show the puppy a treat and they put it in the clear cylinder, and they're seeing if the puppy's going to go straight into it or if the puppy's going to figure out if, it needs to go around to get the treat. Another one is kind of what they call the unsolvable test, where they're going to actually put a treat into a container and lock it and see how long it's going to take the puppy, if the puppy's going to keep trying to do it independently, or when the puppy's going to look to the human to, for help, essentially. So just a number of tests to kind of see how these puppies interact with humans, even at 8 weeks old. And if we can see, once we see if those dogs end up graduating in our program, if we can eventually see trends that show us what early cognition, is really gonna, potentially make better service dogs.
There's a whole lot of science behind it. So wonderful to know that. I believe our listeners would be very happy to hear the kind of details that you're going in terms of getting these service dogs trained, and that's very fabulous. Now, let me just change one gear from dogs over to humans, right? We did talk about volunteers, right? Now, let's say if somebody wants to become a volunteer, but they don't know, they don't have experience. Do you got any programs for such people, and how are they getting trained?
Absolutely. You do not need any experience to volunteer for Canine Companions. And there are so many ways to volunteer, not just by raising a puppy. We have, fundraising events, and we have opportunities to volunteer at our campuses across the country. We also have volunteer chapters, over 50 of them across the United States, that help, raise money and raise awareness for Canine Companions, do local parades and different things. So there's always ways to get involved. And then, of course, there are, puppy raisers all over the country. And you also don't need experience for that. You don't have to be a, professional dog trainer. You just have to have a willingness to really learn and to take on, it is a huge commitment. You teach the puppy, more than 30 commands and take them basically everywhere you go that's appropriate for about 1.5 years. So it's a huge commitment, but it's also so rewarding. So I would just tell anyone who's interested in getting involved with Canine Companions, really in any way, go to our website at canine.org and find out more. We'd love to have you.
Great. That's a very super piece of information out there, Michelle. Now, having talked about the service dogs being available, but there must also be a multiple number of requests coming in and day out. It must be very difficult for you to manage the wait list at your end. How does the whole process work, and what would you want our listeners to know about in terms of somebody looking for some assistance to basically get a service dogs in place?
Yeah, gosh, there is a long wait all over the country and in many organizations that do this. We have consistently about 400 people on our wait list. And we know there's a huge need, and at Canine Companions, we're really trying to ensure that we can advocate for our graduates and, of course, breeding more successful service dogs, training more successful service dogs, and placing successful service dogs, placing more teams. We're going to try to reduce that wait list. But there is such a need. But if anyone is looking for a service dog, please apply, look and see, find out more on our website at canine.org to see if our dogs are, right for you. And we would just love to have you apply if it looks like it's something that's right for you. You can go to canine.org/apply to learn more and submit that that initial application. And it is, you know, a pretty thorough application process. We want to make sure, of course, that these incredible dogs, after all that they've gone through and all that we've put into them, that they are going to, you know, work in the way that they're intended. The dogs that are our service, you know, our service dogs just love to work. They want to have a job. And we want to make sure, of course, that the person both needs a dog and also wants the dog to do the things that our dogs can perform for them, the tasks that our dogs can do. So I just encourage people to apply and look into it if they are interested.
Wonderful. Of all the programs, what are the future plans for Canine Companions that you have?
Well, we really hope to keep researching and leading the industry so that we can kind of share some of our findings with the rest of the service dog industry, so that we can hopefully decrease these wait lists so people don't have to wait as long, and also advocate for our graduates and for all people with disabilities and all service dog users, so that we can decrease access issues. That's one of the things that our clients deal with often, is being denied access to public spaces because they have their service dog with them. And of course, that is against the law. But with one problem that we do find all over is rampant issue with fraudulent service dogs. People bringing their pets in to public spaces where dogs are not allowed to be. And of course, we hope people won't do that. We know that most people don't mean anything bad by it. They just don't realize that it really is harmful to people with legitimate service dogs, because having, you know, untrained pets, even though they're adorable, in public spaces, it can be really dangerous to service dogs and their owners. So we really hope that people will not do that. And that's one thing that we hope, is that we can advocate for, you know, 100% access, so people are not denied access when they have their service dog with them.
That's absolutely very, very important. Um, I want to know if you would be able to share any story from your association with the Canine Companions, which would have actually moved your heart and made you feel proud that you are associated with the Canine Companions.
Okay, there are so many, so I'll try to be concise here. It's been incredible over, you know, nearly a decade, meeting so many of our clients, and I think that's something that is so special and unique about Canine Companions. Something that makes our mission so exceptional is that you get to meet our clients. You know, it's so wonderful, and there's a couple that have really moved me. So many that have really moved me over the years, but I'll just share a couple. I have had a really close relationship with my grandma before she passed, and one of our hearing graduates, so she was a woman who was deaf. She was speaking at her graduation, and she said, you know, I have a new grandbaby, and I wasn't going to be able to watch her because I can't hear a baby cry. So now that I have this dog who's going to alert me to that, I'm going to be able to have a relationship with my granddaughter that I wasn't going to be able to have before. And that one really got me. Another one was a veteran with post-traumatic stress disorder who said he was unable to do many things. One amongst them, which didn't, you know, seem to surprise me a ton, was he was unable to watch fireworks. And I thought, oh, that, you know, makes sense. Lots of bangs, lots of lights. But that really made me kind of sad, because I thought, gosh, you know, on 4th of July, we're all celebrating our independence, mostly due to our wonderful service members, right? And we're all watching the fireworks, and he's not able to enjoy them. And since being matched with his service dog to help mitigate those PTSD symptoms, he not only went to Disneyland with his family, but watched the fireworks show there. So that one I could probably tell you 1,000 stories like those, but oh, and I do have one more that's just so good. But they're just it's just incredible. The other one that I just love is this gentleman who he lives in San Francisco. Really nice, young, active guy. He's actually a Paralympic athlete. No big deal, right? He's such a cool guy. And he tells this story that he was never able to go get coffee on his own. He lives in San Francisco. If you've been there, lots of it's very hilly, right? And I guess his favorite coffee shop was at the top of the hill or something like that. So he was never able to go there on his own. And since being matched with his dog, he was telling this story where he called his wife and said, "Hey, can I bring you coffee?" And she was kind of confused why he sounded so excited. And she's like, "Oh, I guess, And it was because he was actually able to go there on his own with the help of his service dog, who helps pull him up the hills of San Francisco. He was able to get that coffee for him and his wife at his favorite shop. Since then, they have a little boy, and he's doing incredible things, and it's just so cool to see that. And then there was a little boy who had autism and Down syndrome, and he was pretty nonverbal, didn't speak a lot. And his mom said, he hadn't told her that he loved her in many years. And she said, that's okay. It wasn't, it's nothing bad that she felt weird about. It just, that wasn't something that he said a lot. And at team training during that 2 weeks where they're there to match with their dog, he was matched with this dog, Elsie. And his mom said that he said to his dog, "Oh, Elsie, I love you. Mama, I love you too." And that one just really got me, a kid being able to get back in touch with his emotions and just the love that a dog can help bring out and can give as well. Is just incredible. So those are some of my favorite stories. And like I said, I could just go on forever and ever.
As you said, Michelle, incredible. I can't stop listening to your stories. I mean, you can keep going on and on. I'm ready to listen to all of them. Very touching to the heart, very, very touching to the heart. Finally, with all your experience, what message would you like to share with the listeners?
Oh gosh, I guess the most important message I want to share is that Canine Companions is really leading the way in the service dog industry, and we hope that you will support us and support our clients. And if you're interested in helping us provide these incredible dogs, these incredible expertly trained service dogs, completely free of charge to children, adults, and veterans, please visit canine.org. You can donate, you can volunteer. There are so many ways to get involved, and we would just love to have you.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Great to see how everyone on this planet are dependent on each other in some way or the other, right? It's actually the essence of living together, irrespective of whether you're a human, an animal, or any other living being. It's all about coexistence, isn't it? Well, thank you very much for your time, Michelle. Wonderful talking with you. And I could see all the aura that you were spreading as part of the overall conversation that you were having. Great enthusiasm. I appreciate the kind of an affection that you would have for the dogs and the kind of a compassion that you're showing. I know you are absolutely at the right place. Thank you very much for being there.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having us. This has been wonderful.
Wonderful talking to you, Michelle. You have a very good one. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.